I don't need your dirty work anymore, this is my company now. That's what my wife said. Not during a fight. Not even in private. She said it in front of two clients. Two clients I brought in. Two people who knew me from the construction days, before we had a company name, before we had furniture, before she even believed this dream of ours was possible. My name is Mark Riggins. I'm 43 years old, born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I started out swinging a hammer in my early 20s, laying drywall, patching old buildings, doing the kind of jobs people walk past without a second glance. But I had vision. I could walk into a gutted kitchen and see the future: crown molding, recessed lights, polished concrete. I didn't just fix places. I transformed them. It was 7 years ago when my wife, Amanda, and I decided to build something for ourselves. She was an office assistant at the time, smart, organized, and ambitious. We pooled our savings, gave up weekends, worked nights. I handled the bills, she handled the books. We started getting attention. Referrals. Then real contracts. A name. Riggs and Hart Interiors. Her maiden name. Not mine. I didn't care. It was catchy. And we were building it together. But things started changing once we made our first big break, a boutique hotel downtown that landed us in a regional design magazine. Suddenly Amanda was being invited to networking events, galas, trade shows. She began dressing different, talking different, hanging out with people who used words like aesthetic leverage and market adjacency. I didn't mind her success. Hell, I was proud of it. But slowly, almost surgically, she began rewriting the story, painting herself as the mastermind, the founder, the face of the company. I became the guy who helped with installs. Like I was some extra pair of hands who just happened to live in her house. I kept brushing it off, telling myself it was just how business worked now. But that day, when she looked me in the eye, smiled like a politician, and told our clients she didn't need my dirty work anymore, something broke. Not in a loud, explosive way. Something quieter. Colder. I didn't say a word. I just nodded, shook hands with the clients, and walked out of that showroom we'd built together. She thought I was defeated. She had no idea I just started my own private blueprint. I didn't sleep much that night. Amanda came home late, still wearing that sharp red blazer she'd worn to the client meeting, the one she always saved for press photos. She dropped her purse on the counter, poured herself a glass of wine, and didn't say a word about what she'd said earlier. Didn't apologize. Didn't explain. She just said, "You look tired today," like I was a sick dog she'd forgotten to put down. I told her I'd be taking a few days off to clear my head. She barely nodded. "Do what you need to do, Mark. I've got meetings." And just like that, she was gone again. But it wasn't just a bad day. I started noticing patterns. Things that didn't feel like accidents. Like the company website suddenly listing her as the sole founder. Our story rewritten. No mention of our early jobs of me. Then came the bank account oddities. I used to manage all our vendor payments. Suddenly, I couldn't log in. Passwords changed. Amanda blamed the new finance software, said she'd handle it personally now since she had a better eye for the numbers. It didn't sit right, so I started paying closer attention. Credit card statements showed strange charges. $3,800 at some spa resort in Napa. $2,200 at a boutique fashion place I'd never heard of. And a monthly $600 recurring charge to something labeled only as FMC services. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. Instead, I called Marcus, our old accountant. The guy we both used to trust until she fired him 3 months ago for being too slow. I took him out for coffee, kept it casual. He looked nervous. I was darting around the cafe like he thought she might walk in. "You're still listed as co-owner on the original articles of incorporation," he told me quietly. "But she filed an amendment. Took your name off the operating agreement 2 weeks ago. Said you agreed to it." I hadn't signed a damn thing. Marcus slid a folded piece of paper across the table. "This is just between us, yeah?" It was a printout of the amendment form bearing a signature that looked a lot like mine, but not quite. The tail of the K in Mark was off. The R in Riggins curved too tight. She had forged it. Amanda hadn't just pushed me out of meetings or reshaped the narrative, she was erasing me from our company. Silently. Methodically. I sat there, staring at that forged signature. And I realized something. I wasn't dealing with a bitter partner anymore. I was dealing with a rival. And rivals don't get second chances. They get precision. That Amanda was long gone. Now she walked like a CEO, spoke like a PR pitch, and moved like someone who knew every chess piece was already in position. She thought I was just a pawn she could slide off the board without consequence. So I stopped playing checkers and started thinking like a man with something to prove. I made copies, every file, every agreement, every invoice from the early years. Backed them up to an external drive, labeled everything meticulously. Contracts signed in my name. Receipts I'd submitted for material purchases. Photos, time-stamped, of me on-site, hands covered in grout, building the business Amanda now pretended fell from the sky with her face on it. Then I started digging deeper. I reached out to Jenna, the office manager Amanda hired and conveniently let go 3 weeks ago. Jenna didn't even wait for pleasantries. "She's funneling money, Mark," she whispered. I saw the transfers. Personal expenses from the business account marked as client gifts or consulting fees. To who? That's when Jenna said a name I hadn't heard before. Miles Connors. He wasn't just some consultant. He was a real estate investor. Handsome, flashy, the kind of guy who showed up once, winked at my wife, and never came back, or so I thought. Jenna said he was in the office often now. Late, when no one else was around. I didn't need to ask more. I'd seen that pattern before. She wasn't just stealing my business. She was screwing her way through its funding. And now I had a name. Amanda had erased me from the company. Now it was time to erase her illusions of safety. I didn't explode. Didn't throw accusations or pack a suitcase. I smiled at Amanda when she walked through the door. Kissed her cheek. Told her dinner was in the oven. She thought I was breaking. That I'd rolled over and accepted the rewrite of our history. But inside I was already 3 moves ahead. I started sleeping in the guest room, claimed it was for my back. She barely noticed. She was too busy with events, late meetings, client dinners. Miles Connors wasn't even a secret anymore. She just didn't care. Or maybe she thought I didn't. Perfect. I set up meetings of my own with an attorney friend named Charles. We went way back. I showed him the original LLC documents, contracts Amanda never touched, the fake amendment, the forged signature. His response? "You've got her by the throat. She just doesn't know it yet." Charles helped me begin the process, a lawsuit built slow and quiet. No fireworks. Just filings. Quiet subpoenas. A financial audit request sent through the court. We weren't just going after the business. We were going after fraud. But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted the truth to bleed out in public. So I paid a visit to one more person Amanda never expected, Dolores. The company's first accountant, the one Amanda fired a year ago when she modernized the books. Dolores still had backups. She always did. When I asked if she still had the internal memos Amanda sent back then, her eyes narrowed. "You mean the one where she wrote, 'Mark's role is more symbolic now, just make sure his name is removed from the bank authorizations?'" Bingo. Dolores slid a manila folder across the cafe table. Inside were emails, transaction printouts, and an internal memo that ended with the words, "Start transitioning the company branding to Amanda Hart only." She was scrubbing me from my own life like I was a stain. She had no idea I was holding the detonator. And every document, every lie she signed was another finger on the trigger. A week later, Amanda came home glowing, the kind of glow that used to mean we'd landed a dream client. Now it meant something else. Guess who just confirmed the Palm Ridge contract? She beamed, dropping her keys on the counter like confetti. "Miles says it's gonna triple our Q4. Our Q4. That word used to mean something. Not anymore." I nodded and smiled like I was proud of her. Inside, I was already reviewing the wire transfers for Palm Ridge that I'd quietly requested through legal. Amanda had filed the entire deal under a new entity, A Hart Interiors LLC, set up in Delaware 2 months ago. She hadn't just cut me out. She'd started building a duplicate company behind my back. A shadow version, one with no trace of me, no ties to our past, no legal fingerprints I could easily follow. That's how I knew Miles wasn't just her lover. He was her partner in crime. But I had my own shadow play in motion. I'd spoken to our last retained attorney, Denise, the one Amanda assumed was long gone. Turns out she wasn't just gone. She was furious. Amanda had stopped paying her, too. She treated me like a temp, Denise had said. Didn't think I was smart enough to understand what she was pulling. But Denise understood just fine. She joined my case without hesitation, and she brought more than legal knowledge. She had internal documents from her last 6 months working with Amanda. Emails, draft filings, a PDF where Amanda literally typed, "Let's move Riggs off everything. Slowly. He doesn't check the files anyway." She underestimated me, and I was about to show her why that was her biggest mistake. We filed the first wave of documents on a Thursday morning. A fraud complaint, a petition to freeze the business bank accounts pending investigation. and a motion to subpoena records from the A-Hart Interiors shell. All filed quietly. No phone calls. No texts. No warnings. Amanda wouldn't find out until she tried to book her next flight to LA for a design conference with Miles, and her business card got declined at the airport. She'd laugh it off at first, but the real blow was coming. The kind that doesn't just freeze your credit, it freezes your narrative. She called me from the airport. 3 missed calls. Then a text. "Mark, what the hell is going on? My company card just got declined at TSA. I'm about to miss a flight. Fix it." I didn't respond. 10 minutes later came another message. "If this is about your bruised ego, grow up. I built this company." That line made me laugh out loud. I built the literal walls she used for magazine shoots. She built a brand on my work, then tried to airbrush me out like I was a bad shadow. Amanda finally came home that night, stomping through the door like a toddler denied candy. She didn't even say hello. "What did you do, Mark?" she snapped. I stood by the sink, slowly peeling an orange. "I froze the company accounts," I said calmly. Her face twisted like I'd slapped her. "You don't even have access to those anymore." "Actually," I said, setting the peel down, "I never lost access. You just forged a document and filed it with the state. But the original operating agreement, the one with both our names, that one's still active. It never got properly amended. So yeah, turns out I still have just as much control as you do." Her mouth opened and closed. No words, just shock. I walked past her, then paused at the doorway. "Oh, and there's a fraud case filed now. You'll be getting served soon. Maybe don't make any big travel plans." She screamed at me then, called me a snake, a parasite, a bitter old man who was trying to destroy everything she built. But I didn't flinch. I just stared at her and said, "You didn't build this, Amanda. You hijacked it." And for the first time in a long time, she had no clever comeback. Just panic. She wasn't dealing with the quiet handyman anymore. She was dealing with a man who had every nail, every receipt, every lie documented. And now the demolition was underway. 3 days after Amanda's meltdown, a black Mercedes rolled up outside our office building. Miles Connors. I watched from across the street, seated in my truck like I was on a stakeout. It was almost funny. He didn't know yet that a subpoena had already been delivered to his holding company that morning. One connected to a string of payments that had gone through our business account under strategic consultation. Amanda marked them as deductible expenses. But the wire transfers told the real story. $14,500 to a luxury apartment rental. $8,200 for creative services that didn't exist. And nearly $60,000 funneled into a personal project of his, a failed property flip on the outskirts of Scottsdale. I had it all, and I wasn't hiding it. The following Monday, Amanda and Miles strutted into a joint investor meeting, an important quarterly review with our oldest backers. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I showed up anyway. Walked in 10 minutes late, calm, silent. Amanda's eyes widened like she'd seen a ghost. Miles stiffened. The investors glanced at each other. Then I pulled out a folder and laid it on the table. "Before we start, I think you all deserve full transparency." Inside the folder were printouts of bank records, a forged contract with my signature, and a trail of funds going from our company account to Miles' private holdings. Amanda's voice cracked first. "This is completely out of context." "I'm sure it is," I said flatly. "And I'm sure the forensic accountant hired by the court will be fascinated by the context." One of the investors, a man named Bill who'd known us since we were remodeling cafes, slammed his hand on the table. "You forged his name? You funneled money to him?" Amanda started to cry then. The mascara ran, but the act was old. Miles stood up. "I think we're done here." But we weren't, because the next document I slid across the table was a separate lawsuit against him for collusion, fraudulent billing, and misappropriation of corporate funds. "This is a civil suit," I said. "But if the DA wants to look into it further, well, that's out of my hands." That's when Miles turned pale. He didn't say another word. He just walked out fast. Amanda stayed behind, speechless, surrounded by people who now saw the truth. After the investor meeting, Amanda vanished for 2 days. No calls. No emails. It was louder than any scream. But the world around her wasn't silent. The lawsuit filings had triggered a mandatory financial freeze on all Riggs and Hart accounts. Every vendor she'd been sweet-talking stopped responding. Projects went into limbo. Our staff, the ones she thought were loyal to her, started forwarding me emails, screenshots, receipts. Turned out they remembered who really signed their first paychecks, who stayed late during build nights, who fixed problems instead of staging them. And then it happened. A client, a big one, posted a statement on LinkedIn. Due to internal concerns regarding financial transparency, we are suspending our contract with Riggs and Hart Interiors pending resolution. That one post opened the floodgates. Amanda's curated image began to splinter. Messages started pouring into her last post, that photo of her in a designer coat outside the office, captioned, "Self-made isn't a buzzword, it's a lifestyle." The comments told a different story now. Is this the same self-made woman who's being sued for corporate fraud? Didn't you erase your husband's name from the company files? I worked with Mark. He's the one who made your designs possible. Amanda finally surfaced the next morning. She stormed into our house like a hurricane. "You've destroyed everything," she shouted. "You don't get to burn the company down just because you're bitter." I didn't flinch. "I'm not burning it down. I'm just ripping off the mask you built it with." "You want to embarrass me?" she screamed. "Is that it? You want people to see me as some villain?" I looked her dead in the eye. "No. I want them to see the truth. That while you were playing queen, I was the one laying the foundation. And when you got bored of the man who built your castle, you tried to evict him like a stray dog." She threw a glass. It shattered against the wall. The silence afterward said more than any argument could. Amanda Hart was unraveling. The spotlight she once lived for had turned into a courtroom lamp. And the world was finally seeing what I had known for months. Behind every power pose and fake smile was a liar who thought she'd never get caught. 2 weeks before the hearing, my lawyer Denise called me. "You're gonna want to come see this in person," she said, her voice low, almost amused. "It's not just smoke anymore, Mark. We've got the match." I met her downtown in her office. She slid a thin white envelope across the table, no stamps, no return address, just my name scribbled in familiar handwriting. Inside was a printed letter, unsigned. But I knew the voice. It was from Carla, the new accountant Amanda had hired after firing everyone who remembered I existed. Carla had always kept her head down, the silent type, but apparently not blind. The letter read, "I stayed quiet for months. I watched her reroute money, rename entities, refile taxes under the new company name. She told me you'd stepped away, that you were too tired, that the company was always hers. But then she started paying contractors in cash. No receipts. Number 1099s. She claimed it was for efficiency. I know what tax fraud looks like. I've attached copies of the original ledgers and the backup drive from the internal system. Do what you will. I'm done being part of it." And stapled behind that note, every ledger from the last year. Amanda had been running 2 companies side by side, shifting income from Riggs and Hart to Hart Interiors, dodging taxes, billing clients double through layered shell accounts. She wasn't just unethical. She was criminal. That afternoon, Denise filed a motion to introduce the new evidence. The court accepted it. We sent a clean copy to Amanda's lawyer. 3 hours later, Amanda finally reached out. She didn't call. Didn't text. She showed up at my house, not our house anymore, technically. I'd moved her name off the deed 2 weeks prior. She stood on my front porch in designer sunglasses and a trembling voice. "Can we talk?" I stepped outside but didn't invite her in. She started soft. "Mark, I made mistakes, okay? I got overwhelmed. I thought I could handle it and I couldn't. But we built something amazing. Together." Now she wanted to remember together. "Why are you really here?" I asked. Her eyes flicked toward her purse. "I want to make this go away. Quietly. For both our sake. I'll sign back 40%. Even 50. Just drop the lawsuits." I stared at her steady. "You don't get to negotiate your way out of theft, Amanda." The truth finally showed on her face, a twitch in the lip, a flash of hate in her eyes. "You're nothing without me," she hissed. "You think any of those clients cared about drywall and sawdust? You were the help. I was the vision." I stepped back and closed the door. The morning of the hearing felt colder than usual, not the weather, just the air. Like the city knew something was coming. I arrived early, dressed simple, dark blazer, no tie, boots still scuffed from a site visit. I wasn't there to impress anyone. I was there to bury a lie. Amanda showed up 20 minutes late. She walked into the courtroom like it was a photo shoot, heels clicking, lips glossed, wearing a white dress that practically screamed innocence. Behind her trailed Miles Connors, a young guy in a $1,000 haircut trying not to sweat. She caught my eye and gave the tiniest smile. Still playing queen. Still thinking charm would outmaneuver truth. But then the judge entered and charm died fast. My lawyer Denise went first. No theatrics. Just facts. She pulled up a projection of our original operating agreement, signed, sealed, dated with my name listed as 50% co-founder. Then came the forged amendment Amanda filed, the one with the wrong R in my signature. We showed the digital forensics. Proven fake. Next, the bank transfers. The dual company accounts. The payments to Miles' shell company. Then Carla's ledgers. Then Dolores' email. Each piece dropped like a nail in a coffin. Amanda's lawyer tried to object, but the judge silenced him with a glare. Then it was her turn. Amanda stood. Confident. Still polished. This is all a misunderstanding, she said with a practiced laugh. My husband and I were going through a hard time. There was confusion about roles, communication gaps. And did you, Denise interrupted, at any point instruct your accountant to remove your husband's name from official records? Amanda paused. I may have suggested it temporarily. For clarity. Denise nodded. Is that what you meant in this email when you wrote, and I quote, he's deadweight now? Let's move forward without the construction baggage. Silence. Even Miles looked away. Amanda blinked fast, the first sign the performance was cracking. Then came the last blow. We displayed the letter Carla's. Anonymous, yes? But the data spoke for itself. Amanda hadn't just erased me. She'd siphoned nearly $380,000 from our original company to her secret accounts. The courtroom felt ice cold. The judge leaned forward. I'll be reviewing everything thoroughly. But from what I've seen so far, Ms. Hart, you're not just looking at civil penalties. You're looking at criminal fraud. Amanda's face collapsed. Just a woman unraveling, caught in her own web, staring at the man she tried to delete. It didn't take long. 2 weeks after the hearing, the court granted a preliminary injunction. Amanda was ordered to halt all activity under both Riggs and Hart Interiors and A. Hart Interiors until the case was resolved. The account stayed frozen. Her access revoked. And then came the message I'd been waiting for. Mr. Riggins, the court has found sufficient evidence to proceed with a full audit and to restore your legal status as 50% co-owner pending final judgment. I'd never been big on celebration, but that one line? I read it 3 times. Let it settle deep into my bones. Amanda's empire was done playing dress-up. Still, I stayed quiet. No posts. No gloating. That wasn't my style. But word got around. Old clients started calling. Contractors who'd walked away under Amanda's rule were suddenly reaching out. Even Bill, one of the investors who'd watched her spiral in that boardroom, invited me to lunch. Over burgers and beer, he said, we never wanted her in charge, Mark. We followed the money, but the soul of the company? That was always you. I didn't say much. Just nodded. But inside, something shifted. Later that week, I went back to the office. But when I walked in that morning, keys still in my pocket, something felt right. Amanda hadn't changed the locks. Maybe she thought I'd never come back. I pulled out a box from my truck, the one I kept from our first project. Inside, our original logo sketch, a signed thank you note from our first client, and an old photo of Amanda and me, arms around each other, standing in front of a freshly painted farmhouse kitchen. I stared at that photo for a long time, then quietly slipped it into the trash. I walked outside to the front of the building. The sign still read A. Hart Interiors, sleek, metallic, soulless. I took out my drill. No fanfare. No press. Just 4 screws. The sign came down with a hollow clang. I went back inside, pulled the original wood-paneled sign from storage. Wiped off the dust. Riggs and Hart carved by hand, back when names still meant something. I hung it back where it belonged. Except now only one name mattered. And soon only one would remain. The final hearing was short. Amanda showed up looking hollowed out. No designer dress. No false lashes and a face that had finally run out of lies. Her lawyer did most of the talking, tone subdued, no objections this time. The evidence was too overwhelming. Too public. The court ruled in my favor on every count. Fraud. Forgery. Breach of fiduciary duty. Amanda was ordered to surrender her controlling interest in the company. A Hart Interiors would be dissolved. I was awarded full ownership of Riggs and Hart, and damages equal to her embezzled withdrawals, plus interest. But the part that stuck with her the most? The judge's final words. Ms. Hart, The arrogance of pretending one partner's hands don't build what another's mouth sells is exactly how legacies die. You didn't just betray a husband. You betrayed the business you claimed to love. She didn't cry, not in front of the judge, but when we crossed paths in the hallway after court, she couldn't hold it in. "Mark, I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. "I just wanted something that was mine." "You had something," I said, "but you wanted it without me. So now you can have something else entirely, the consequence." She reached for my arm, one last desperate move. "Do you ever think we could have fixed this?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "We could have fixed anything, Amanda, except your ego." I walked away, keys in hand, future clear. I brought back the old team, the ones who knew how to build, not just brand. And the new sign? Just one name now, Riggs Interiors. The first project we booked under that name was with a non-profit housing rehab, same kind of place Amanda once called low-yield work. I smiled. My favorite kind of job. From ruins I build. And that's what Amanda never understood. She took. She posed. She performed success. I made it. Quietly. With calloused hands and a vision she never saw coming. She tried to erase me. Now I've erased her. All back where they belong.